just 2 months after a diplomatic thaw at the SCO summit. Over 24 rounds of commander-level talks, continuous engagements. After all of that, the chill is back in the Himalayas. China's unfounded, legally untenable claims over Arunachal Pradesh have resurfaced in new forms. Renaming sprees, objections to Indian citizens, stapling their passports, a standard procedure that China has been doing for years now. And now a revived border rhetoric yet again. Beijing's pattern of provocation continues despite diplomacy. We unpack the history, the legality, and why this recurring Arunachal Pradesh problem refuses to fade and how this is likely to overshadow the India-China relationship. But first up, this report that brings you up to speed with why this is central to the New Delhi-Beijing equation.
Negotiations on paper and tensions on the ground have long shaped India-China relations. Even during phases of diplomatic warmth, China's posture on Arunachal Pradesh has followed a familiar historical pattern. Over the years, reports of Chinese officials questioning local grazers and echoes of the old stapled passport era reflected a consistent effort to challenge the region's identity. A clear approach rooted in a much older playbook. Beijing has leaned on selective history for decades now. It repeatedly invokes bogus monastic links and vintage maps to claim what modern law never granted. India's objections have a long record. 2009, China issues stapled visas to Arunachal residents. 2011, Beijing blocks 2 Indian sportspersons from the Asian Karate Championships over their Arunachal domicile. 2017, China protests the Dalai Lama's visit to Tawang, reviving its historical claims. Arunachal has long been a living, inalienable Indian state. China's fabricated and misleading narrative has had no impact on the ground.
Viewers, China's latest moves are nothing but yet another effort that have been countered by India firmly. And I'm now going to walk you through what all has happened repeatedly in the last few years and why this is likely to be yet another thorn that both sides will have to negotiate, and diplomacy will have to once again play a lot of role. First and foremost, one-sided confrontation that took place after the SCO thaw. Surprise escalation after the Tianjin SCO meeting that took place between Prime Minister Modi and President Xi Jinping. This was the first time that the PM travelled to China in 7 years. After the Wuhan spirit, all of which then gets dampened by what happened to the Indian citizen from Arunachal Pradesh. Next up, the staple visas for Arunachal Pradesh citizens and residents. The residents there face this on a very regular basis. Now, why is this important? Because it means that China wants to continue make this an issue again and again and again. And repeatedly, stapled visas have been issued to individuals from Arunachal Pradesh, even as India has absolutely made it clear. Arunachal Pradesh is an inalienable part of India and will remain so always. Next up, let's get you the other aspect in terms of we are putting out that pattern of provocation from the Chinese side. Renaming spree of locations in Arunachal Pradesh. Randomly, several locations in Arunachal Pradesh have been renamed and given Chinese names. One fine day, it just happened. Chinese names were given to all those cities and prominent areas in Arunachal Pradesh. Again, to prove a point and lead that entire provocative behavior that India has been calling out again and again, and behavior that actually comes back to haunt the relationship, which is moving forward but gets pulled back because of these provocative gestures. Objections to Indian leaders visiting Arunachal Pradesh. Frequently, whenever Indian leaders, prominent politicians, thought leaders have travelled to Arunachal Pradesh, there's been a voice that has come in from China. They've in fact registered protests. Can you believe it, viewers? Arunachal Pradesh is a part of India. Indians are going and travelling there. Anybody is free to go to any part of this country. Who is China to tell us anything? But this again is that pattern of provocation that we are telling you about. And lastly, blocking international platforms over Arunachal Pradesh residents. Previously blocked Arunachal Pradesh athletes and officials from events and conferences. Again, this is a pattern. They're telling that they are trying to put that view across forward again and again, and they choose those prominent events, prominent sporting events to prove that point. And which is why this is so important for you to understand how things have been going as far as China is concerned. Now viewers, we've told you why this is important, but let's now understand one thing. Direct flight connectivity between India and China started in October, just about 4 weeks back. They were suspended post the Galwan clash, where China unilaterally attacked Indian soldiers. It has taken them so long to move forward. Since then, several other series of steps have been taken to move towards normalization, resumption of Mansarovar Yatra, commemoration of 75 years of bilateral ties, several others. But the underlying trust deficit remains. These measures can continue, but how do you address the trust deficit? And for that, Beijing is solely responsible. Raising Arunachal Pradesh again and again shows China will always remain a challenge and an adversary for India, one with which a trust deficit is unlikely to ever be addressed.